Hey everyone, I'm Nicole Valencia of RotoGrinders.com, here to show you the free features offered in the RotoGrinders DraftKings Tools browser extension, available in Google Chrome and Mozilla Firefox. We're going to start off in the lobby with the margin and the overlay. So the margin is the percentage of entry fees that DraftKings takes for running the contests, and the overlay is the difference for guaranteed contest only between DraftKings guaranteed prize pool amount and the current amount of entry fees in the contest. So this overlay will go down as more people enter a contest. But you can see it displayed as a total dollar amount or a percentage of entry fees. When you click on a contest, you get more contest details. So in addition to the margin, I will now see the percentage of the field that gets paid, the min cash amount. So 1.67x simply means that because this is a $150 tournament and the min cash is $250, and the min cash is 1.67x. The percentage of the prize pool awarded to first place, and then you'll also see a top 10 percentage if at least 50 people in the contest get paid. This contest does not qualify for that, but we can look at a different contest, and now we have a first place percentage and also the top 10 percentage. You'll also notice some numbers here in parentheses after the M. The M stands for multi-entry. The numbers in parentheses are another feature of the extension that just shows the number of entries a particular user has in the contest so far. The other thing offered up in the lobby is for small contests, and by that I mean 5 or fewer total entrants. So if we click here and sort, we'll see all these little user icons. When you hover over it, it tells you who is already entered into a contest. So you can look through and quickly see if you want to avoid a certain user, who you would be playing in that contest if you were to enter it. Let's move on over now to the lineups page, where we have the player exposure and the lineup naming features. We also have a not starting feature, which will show you for your lineups if you have a player that isn't in the starting lineup. I would need to change this lineup to get that, but for soccer and MLB lineups, sometimes that will be the case. So if I were to edit this lineup, I would need to turn on hide non-starters and find somebody like Troy Tulowitzki and assign my lineup. I will get a notification at the top telling me you've got somebody not in the starting lineup. Here it is. Check your lineups. You have one player not in the starting lineup. Well, if I then take out Tulowitzki, that banner will go away. So if we put Bogarts back in, that will fix itself. Now notice this feature won't work if you have 150 lineups because not all of this DraftKings data gets loaded on the page at once. So we'll only be able to scroll through so many lineups and look for that no trespassing symbol, but it's still helpful if you have a lot of lineups and are looking to make sure you've got everybody playing. So that's what the little red banner is for. We'll move on next to lineup naming. If I were to name this cash or head-to-head, then I can save that name by just simply clicking outside of the box. You can put up to 20 characters in for a lineup name for any of your lineups. They will save across the different tabs, so as this lineup moves to a live or recent tab, it should still have its lineup name until we clear it, which we can do by just hitting clear lineup names. And then you notice it disappeared. If I go back and just name it again head-to-head, I can find it again later by naming any different lineup that I wish. And it's as simple as that. The big feature on this page is the player exposure options. We have different filters for them. The first filter is to filter by total entries or unique lineups. This is going to group them into large buckets and determine how many times each lineup should count. So right now, total entries, this has a weight of 18 and this one would just be 1 and 1 more. So we have 20 in the total entries bucket for that kind of calculation. And then we have the different ways that those lineups can further be filtered out. So we can group them by slate, group them by game style, or group all by sport. So on this page, you'll see we've got classic lineups and then showdown lineups. And I've got 18 classic and 2 showdown. So if I were to group all by sport, these numbers are going to change now. Wade Miley went to 90% and Porcello the same. And now I've got 95% on Freddie Freeman, since he's in a showdown lineup, and 5% for anybody else in a showdown lineup that's not in my classic lineup. Well, I can change this to unique lineups, and that's going to make everybody 33%, 67%, or 100%. The status will be different, so if I'm looking at upcoming lineups, I can't compare them over to my live lineups or my recent lineups. If I go look at my recent lineups, I can do the same thing here on this golf slate. I just have one slate, so it won't matter if I group by sport or slate. They're all going to be in the same calculation. But notice I have this new feature where I have turned off this lineup from the count. It doesn't have any blue exposure numbers here because I have it disabled currently. So this is my cash lineup that I used. So basically, if I want to turn that off and look at just my GPP lineups that were in a particular contest, I can do so. If I switch this over to total entries, it will change my exposure numbers slightly here because some of these lineups were entered in 2 contests, some were only entered 1 time. I can turn off this lineup and it will save my settings. So if I were to go to the upcoming page and then come back, I would see that it remembered I had those 2 golf lineups turned off. And same thing, I can turn them on whenever I want. So now if I were to add my cash lineup into my total exposure here, I want to look at my total entries. I ended up with 81% Matsuyama. And if I change that to unique lineups, he's only in 36%. Because I clearly didn't play him in a ton of my tournament lineups, but being on my cash lineup, it's going to make a huge difference in the number here. So see, 30%. He was on 3 of my 10 different tournament lineups here. So that's a cool new feature that is really useful because the settings will be saved across all your lineups. So as you come and go from the lineups page, it will remember what it needs to know. And you can just reset them as you wish and go through here. Maybe in the future we'll add something where I can even see an overview of different contests and what you have turned on and what you have turned off. But that's how those green buttons work now. All right, last page over here we're going to look at is my contests page. In the history, when I'm looking at a live or a completed contest, if I go to this birdie contest here, underneath the standings there is a button for any contest that has a prize pool of at least $5,000 or more, and I believe it needs to have 10 or more total entries in the contest. You will see a View Contest on RotoGrinders Results DB link. You can click that and interact directly with Results DB for that particular contest. So here we go. Here are the results of the birdie. You can see the winning lineup, the salary spent, salary remaining, the fantasy points those players scored. You can filter by ownership over on the ownership tab here. See how much certain players were drafted in this particular contest. From there, you can also go back to that slate in general and then go look at different contests. So from the birdie, I can go into other contests and I can click on over to the Golf Millionaire, for example. That'll take me back to the DraftKings Game Center. And again, I can jump back and forth and go right back to Results DB from here. The other thing I can do on the contest is there is a View Head-to-Head button here. I can click on that and compare the winner to another person and see the cap space remaining for their lineups. This feature is very useful for late swap contests, of which, of course, golf is not, but I can look at anybody whose game hasn't started yet, and it will tell me how much cap space that user still has left. So if they had 2 spots they hadn't started here and had $20,000 of cap space, they'd have 2 studs left to go, and you could see just how much cap space they would have left for their lineup. But you can also see it for completed contest, as I can in this case. I can go back to the View 3+, and that takes me back here, and I could look at a different user, go back into the head-to-head view, and that's where you're going to see the cap space remaining. So it's also very useful in head-to-head contests. And so if I go look at one of my head-to-heads, in that same view, you don't have the View 3+ button, but you'll just see the cap space remaining for the different lineups. So that's it for the different features. We can turn them on or off at any time. On Chrome, what you can do is right-click on the contest, or not on the contest, on the RotoGrinders icon for the extension, and hit Manage Extensions. That will take you to the extensions page where you have this extension options button. You just expand that out, and it will show you all the different free options we have, and you can turn them on or off and then hit save. So if you were to turn off the margin and hit save, and then came back into the lobby, just refresh that page. Now you're just going to see the overlay and the margin is gone. In Firefox, it's very similar. You right-click on the icon here and go to Manage Extension. And then right on the page itself, there are all of the free options we have discussed. If you have a suggestion for a new feature for me to add or something to improve upon, you can find me on Twitter or on RotoGrinders, and my handle is @nvalencia30. Thanks for watching.